I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and today I'm going to show you how to use a split stitch as a fill stitch. Normally we use split stitch as an outline stitch, but I'm going to show you how you can stack those lines of stitching together to get a really nice textured fill. One of the things that you need to keep in mind when you use a split stitch as a fill stitch is that it is still a line stitch, so the direction that your stitches take is going to show. You can see that on the points of the rays of this sun, I've got straight lines as a series of V's, and then in these little filled in areas my lines are following the curve of the sun. And over here in this cloud you can see that the lines are just a big spiraling circle that I've used to fill it. So definitely keep in mind the direction that your lines are going. Okay, here we have like a little petal shape, and I've already outlined it in a split stitch, and now I'm going to fill it in. I can either do concentric U's and just keep following that curve, or I can decide to do some straight lines to fill it. I really like doing the concentric curves. I'll probably only be able to do one row around and then one straight line to fill it, but I like the way that looks on flower petals, so that's what I'm going to do. And basically, once you make that decision, you're just going to stitch it just like any other split stitch. Take a stitch and then come up in the middle of that stitch, split it in half, take another stitch, split that one, I'm really going right up into the top of that U there. I want to make sure that I get my rows of stitching really nestled against each other. Now it can be tricky to go around these tight curves with a split stitch, but when you're nestling them against each other, it helps to fill in those little gaps. I'm going to come up, I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. I'm coming up where I want that thread to be. I'm going to back up, just grab part of that thread and drag it back into the curve where I want it to go. And then take just a regular stitch. You should only need to do that in the really tightest curves. Just keep working your way around. You want to butt it right up against the previous row of stitching. So you can use this in places where you would use a satin stitch, but you want a little more texture. This is definitely not a satin stitch. It's not smooth. It's a bumpy, textured surface. Okay, so I've gone once around, and now all I need to do is fill in that last little bit there. So I'm going to probably just take 2 or 3 stitches to fill that. I'm going to go almost to the head of that U. Let me hold this down out of the way. I'm going to go almost to the end, but I want to make sure that that last stitch is split too, so it has the same texture as everything else. I don't want like a little dimple in the middle of my petal. So I'm going to come up in the middle of that last one, and now I'm going to go really right up into that U. And there we go. Nice filled in petal. So that's it. 2 things to keep in mind. 1, make sure you think about in advance how those lines are going to look sitting next to each other. They are going to read still a little bit in your stitching as lines, and you want to plan for what you want that texture to look like. The other thing to make sure you do is when you're stitching, make sure to nestle each row of stitches as close as possible to the one next to it so you get a nice solid fill. I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World. See you next time.